wasn't round anymore? What if our entire planet had suddenly become a giant cube? I know, it sounds absolutely impossible, right? But as an explainer diving into the absolute limits of physics, I can tell you that exploring this crazy thought experiment leads to some truly mind-blowing revelations.
If this actually happened, it immediately begs a few critical questions. First off, would gravity even still work? Like, if the ground beneath us was suddenly completely flat instead of curved, how exactly would that fundamental force behave?
And what about all of Earth's water? Would our oceans literally just fall right off the flat edges and pour out into space? Could airplanes even fly in a world shaped like a box? What's going to happen to human travel, whole countries, the weather, and honestly, life itself? Well, we are going to break all of this down today, and I highly recommend you stay fully engaged until the very end of this explainer, because the final, ultimate consequence of a cubed Earth is something almost nobody actually thinks about. Part 1. Gravity's Weird New Rules.
Okay, let's imagine Earth instantly transforms into a perfect cube, while keeping the exact same volume. At first, everything right around you might look perfectly normal. But, well, not for long. See, gravity is a force that always pulls toward the center of mass. Because of this unbreakable rule of physics, people standing dead in the middle of each of the cube's flat faces would feel totally normal, because the center of the Earth's mass is directly beneath them.
But as you start moving away from that center and walking toward an edge, oh man, everything changes. Gravity would slowly start pulling you sideways. You'd literally feel yourself leaning back toward the center of the cube the farther out you go. Walking near the corners of our cube planet would genuinely feel like you are climbing a massive, steep, invisible hill. Part 2. Where did the oceans go? Now here is where things get really crazy. Water always follows gravity, right? So because gravity is now pulling on a slant toward the center of each face, nearly all the water on Earth would violently rush toward those centers. The edges and corners of our cube would be left completely exposed as these gigantic, bone-dry continents. Meanwhile, the centers of each face would turn into unbelievably deep oceans. Entire countries would disappear underwater instantly, and towering mountain peaks would suddenly just become small islands. Part 3. Unpredictable extreme weather. But the chaos doesn't stop with the water. The atmosphere follows gravity too. The air would aggressively move toward the center of the faces, creating enormous wind systems far, far stronger than any hurricane in human history. Near the edges of the cube, massive storms would basically rage almost constantly. Because of these massive atmospheric shifts, some places would never stop raining, while other areas might literally never see a single drop of rain ever again. Part 4. Navigating a cubed world.
Just imagine trying to simply build a road or drive a car across one of Earth's new edges. You'd have to drive steeply uphill to reach the edge, and then the moment you crossed it, you'd immediately pitch downhill just because the direction of gravity changed so abruptly. Human society as we know it would fundamentally break. Airplanes would require completely redesigned navigation systems. Satellites would just fall right out of orbit, or they'd have to calculate entirely different gravitational fields, totally ruining our GPS. And with all the extreme weather and a total lack of water on the edges, farming would become almost impossible. Daily life would just be completely turned upside down.
The final inevitable twist.
So, we've looked at the bizarre gravity, the relocated oceans, and the apocalyptic weather. But here is the absolute biggest surprise that scientists predict. A cubed planet simply cannot stay stable forever. It's a fundamental law of astrophysics that gravity naturally pulls massive objects into spheres. So this cubed Earth wouldn't just peacefully sit there as a box. No, it would slowly, inevitably begin collapsing in on itself.
I absolutely love this quote about it. Nature would fight to restore balance. Just imagine a slow planetary heartbeat pulsing beneath your feet as the planet violently crushes itself back together under its own immense weight. The rock, the mantle, the very core of the Earth would warp and shatter until the planet became completely round again. So, after seeing how gravity would turn a simple walk into a mountain climb, how the oceans would swallow the centers of the Earth, how mega hurricanes would become a daily occurrence, and how the entire planet would eventually crush itself back into a sphere, I gotta ask, would you actually want to live on Cuba Earth? Let me know your answer down in the comments. Sometimes the strangest questions really do lead to the most fascinating answers. Exploring the impossible is honestly one of the best ways to understand the reality we actually live in. If you enjoyed exploring this impossible reality with me, make sure to subscribe to AI Daily Dose 7 for more amazing what if explainers. Keep asking big questions, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.